Well, another week, another new episode of Doctor Who.
Yes.
And this one was pretty bad.
It made its presence with a bit of a boom, to be honest, didn't it?
I'm joking, it was great. We're talking about Boom, written by Stephen Moffat, directed by Julianne Robinson, and broadcast on the 18th of May 2024. Got the year right this year. This week. Oh, God. Who cares? Just go with it. Go with it. So this is an interesting premise, to say the least. But we've got a nice bit of world building, and I think it's a great pre-credit sequence. Just going to get straight into it. You know, it's a fairly long one. It's about 5 minutes, which there's been longer ones, but sure, this one it was good. I think it established some of the supporting cast quite well. You know, we've got the clerics from Moffat's previous era in there, and
their redesign is brilliant.
Yeah,
well, I think.
Yeah, just the sort of the more the obvious collar and the armour and everything looks great. And we get a surprise appearance from Varda Sethu.
Yes.
Who I assumed, and I think we both said at one point that we probably will, I don't know if we said it on this or when we were just wittering away as usual, that it should probably pop up before the end of this season. But I was thinking more finale, I wasn't thinking episode 3.
No, and she did a really good job in this, I thought.
I thought she was great, yeah.
Yeah. I was really happy with that.
Some of the other sort of surrounding clerics didn't feel as fully formed, but that's not really... they're not meant to be, really, are they?
No, they're sort of just there to die, effectively.
Yeah, I suppose.
In the terms of the story.
Should we get into the story then?
Yes, we should.
The Doctor and Ruby have landed on Kastarian 3, and the Doctor, hearing someone scream somewhere outside the TARDIS, runs into immediate danger and goes foot first onto a landmine, a space landmine.
Yes.
I like the landmine because it could be quite easy to do a standard sort of thing, but the fact that it's a electronic thing and it's scanning you when you put a foot on it, and the moment there's a change or anything and it recognises a live target, it uses that person sort of like themselves as a bomb.
They are the bomb.
Yeah, which for the Doctor is bad news, being a Time Lord. It would obviously do a little bit more damage than your average fella stepping on that.
Yeah.
But I love that. I think my highlight for this episode is, it's not often it comes in the first 10 minutes, but it's the scene where Ruby initially finds the Doctor on the landmine, and they've got to work hard to try and balance it.
Yeah. And the Doctor's just stood there one-legged, isn't he? Hell of a good training for your glutes, mind.
Yeah, I mean, even Shooty said that on Unleashed. She's like, I've got one massive glute now. But I think it's a fun way. It really builds the tension well. And I think with something like this, it could very easily slide into being quite dull in a way. But there's just the way this is directed by Julianne Robinson, big improvement on Space Babies in terms of direction. This I like the choppy cuts up by the Doctor and stuff, the close-ups and then sort of mid-shots, and then and it doesn't feel like it's doing that for the sake of, look at all these cuts that we can do, which Doctor Who, especially recently, has got a tendency to do, of just cut constantly. But this, it felt warranted. Yeah. And it sort of adds to that like panic that the Doctor's having, but trying to stay as calm as possible with one foot on a landmine. And the reference as well to Patrick Troughton and Power of the Doctor with the Skyboat song was nice. And got them to show off their musical skills a little bit more as well. Yeah,
that was all good fun. The bodies, though, of the dead clerics.
The fleshlights.
Yes, they do look very fleshlighty.
No, they're just lights made of flesh, aren't they? Because the hologram comes out.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing there, Moffat. Still writing one-handed after all these years.
You can tell Moffat's back, because as soon as he comes back, spoiler, a companion gets shot and nearly dies.
Yeah, fake out companion death. Moffat's back, baby. Not just that, but some of the dialogue in this is great.
Yeah.
I think, and it's really good. It's a really good way of giving Shooty a bit more to work with than he's had so far. Because we've had 3 back-to-back, quite fun, quite light episodes, and I've been saying for a while now that I think this will be the episode that really gives him that sort of gravitas, and it'll be the one where everything quite clicks for me, and he has. Yeah. I can finally say that all of my sort of, there's just not quite there yet, is finally there. I think Shooty was phenomenally good in this.
Yeah, each Doctor needs that serious episode. Yeah. And this very much was a serious episode for Shooty.
Yeah, 100%.
He done brilliant. His monologuing when Ruby's like fighting for her life, and he's just there like, oh, they haven't worked it out yet. You haven't worked it out, have you, Monday?
Yeah, and he sort of switches that sort of, not nasty, but there's a bit of an edge to it.
Yeah.
You know, he's being quite, oh my God, Ruby, have you worked it out yet? Like, he's very much there. That's the Doctor, and the babbling stuff to try and keep himself calm, and the way he just starts like sort of saying nonsense about like the moon and the president's wife and everything, that sort of poetry.
Ooh, I'm having a day, all that stuff.
Yeah, and when Ruby's out looking for the something to balance it, and then coming back with the body.
Fleshlight.
Yeah, and he's sort of saying, it's going to be a moment, yeah, you know, which is fair. I like the idea of the ambulances in this. Susan Twist, our obligatory Susan Twist cameo for the week.
Yeah.
And I think this is the biggest role she's had so far, by a mile, to be fair.
Yeah, it's been a much more consistent appearance in this episode. I think that might be a theme going forward. Yeah,
it could be something that ties into it, maybe. Maybe the reason we're seeing this is because of Villain Guard, maybe. I don't know. Could be. Just back to the landmine stuff a second, when he's balancing on it. Like I said, I love the tension between that. I think Shooty and Millie are just on form again. You know, there's the tension of it, and the way that Ruby's clicking her fingers is like a metronome for the beat, and the way that originally the Doctor wanted to just throw it, and she's like, nope, not having that. And but when she actually goes up to put it in his hand, she starts to almost panic a bit.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I need something with a beat. Like, bring the beat in.
Bring the beat in.
And also, back to this point I made last week, before I forget. This is Ruby's first planet, Starian 3, right?
Yes.
So you're telling me that last week she's been with the Doctor for 6 months, and she hasn't been to an alien planet yet?
Yeah.
This is really furthering my theory that some of these episodes were originally in a different order, and they haven't gone back and completely trimmed out bits and pieces and fixed stuff with ADR and things like that. Because I think it's bizarre to be in the TARDIS for 6 months and only stay on Earth or spaceships.
I'd have probably put Boom before the Devil's Cord, just for that.
Yeah.
Because, it is a long time of, you can travel anywhere in time and space, and you've just gone either back in time or to a space station. It's very much Series 1 Eccleston feel until this point.
Yeah, and I feel like you need the companion in the same way for the Doctor that you need different sort of varieties of episodes. I think for the companion they need to have a go back in time, go to a spaceship, go to an alien planet, that sort of thing in the first couple of episodes. My only criticism with Ruby in this is that I didn't feel like she was given enough to do. I feel like this could be the one where she has the companion saving the Doctor moment. And instead we don't, which we'll get on to. I do want to bring attention to, I think, was what is one of the darkest scenes I think we've seen in Doctor Who for a while, where poor little Splice, who's the daughter of who's the daughter of the soldier that's been killed, and the Doctor's holding in his hand, is like, "Where's my daddy?" And the Doctor's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" As he's just sort of balanced himself on it, and he can't drop it because the moment he drops it, the landmine shifts and boom.
And then obviously because it's a hologram of Splice's father. She hears his voice, comes running, sees him as his voice activated as well, which you get into in that. She sees her dad as a hologram and runs down to see him and try and touch him and whatever.
Ruby has to basically tackle him.
Wrestle her to the ground. And just like, look at what he stood on. Like, literally brought this girl face to face with a bloody landmine.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, no, it was
a lot of people though have been saying that they thought that the character of like this Splice is a bit annoying in places. I could see where they're coming from, but I think it's more of an issue of, I think, either the dialogue is like that because it was written for someone like sort of much younger than the actress playing Splice, because I think the actress looks about like 11, 12, but really it sounds like a sort of 4 or 5-year-old, the dialogue in terms of like, "Daddy, where's my daddy?"
Like, my mum got gathered up. Yeah,
that sort of thing, and not recognising that her father's a hologram. And not actually there and things like that, and being very blasé about the whole landmine thing. I think if you're as old as the actress is there, you'd be a bit more aware of these things. So I assume there's a logistical reason, because casting kids that young, as they touched on in Unleashed, causes a whole load of issues. But I don't know, maybe you just have to sort of tweak dialogue and things. I don't know, but that's just a minor thing, and I don't think she's as bad as people are making out to be at all. I don't see it.
But then equally, I think obviously she's kind of clocked her dad's dead, and it could be her way of dealing with the grief. Like, you can't fault her for that. In that way. But I think she's been written well.
it's not bad writing. I just don't think it necessarily suits the age of the actress.
No.
That's the only thing. That's it. And again, that's a minor gripe. But after all of this, then the lights start flickering, and the Doctor has to constantly keep his adrenaline like under control by just sort of like rambling and like, or just like singing to himself and everything. And I thought that was very cool. That was very Doctory.
Yeah, it definitely gave flashbacks to 10th Doctor rambling quite a bit for me, because he did ramble.
Well, I mean, I think all Doctors to an extent do, I suppose, but it's just something that we haven't had Shooty flex his muscles with it for that sort of thing yet, which was very welcome, to be fair. The stuff about religion. Now, I'm not a religious person myself, not really. And a lot of people I've seen have sort of seen this as like a Doctor who makes an attack on being religious and religions and all that, which it isn't. It's an attack on the idea of using religion as an excuse for war. Yeah,
for not having to think for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great line, the one about the Doctor saying, oh, it's that magic where it's obviously thinking for yourself. And when Ruby's like, well, how can the church be, soldiers? And he's like, well, most of the time they are. You're just living in a blip, that sort of thing.
Which is true. I mean, look, we had the Crusades, the Crusades with the Christians.
Yeah.
In the past, so, I mean,
even today, people use religion as... If you look at stuff like conflict in the Middle East and things, a lot of that is around religion and people doing it for different gods and different deities, that sort of... Yeah. Like, I have to do this, I feel like it's my calling, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. You're killing hundreds of innocent people.
Yeah.
I think I can see why people might read it as an attack on religion, but I think it's a bit deeper than that and a bit more focused, to be fair.
And I do love, obviously, the Villengard company have supplied all the armaments for this conflict, but the Doctor rightfully points out that, like, you see it early on, so I don't know why someone's picked a fight around here in Castarian 3. And it's like, there are no Castarians, it's a barren planet, effectively. They've just been put there, kept dying at an acceptable rate, to justify spending money on more armaments to keep the company running and stuff. And and
it's the fact that it's like this external party of Villengard with the clerics and everything, and for the clerics it's their like holy duty and all that to fight this war, and they don't even know what the Castarians are because there aren't any. Which is a great twist, and the fact that they're Villengard are essentially profiteering off this conflict, which is especially relevant to things at the minute. If you look at things like Israel and Palestine, Free Palestine.
War to inflate your money.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's inflating companies' bank balances by, the loss of life.
Yeah.
And it's, it's something that's quite relevant at the minute if you look at different countries that are backing certain other countries in the world, not to get too political on this.
You get that brilliant line as well when the Doctor's like, have you figured it out? Most armies notice when they're fighting smoke and mirrors, but not these lot, because they have faith.
Yeah.
Which is where you come into on that, and that generally is brilliant for me.
It's one of those twists that, it's a very cool twist if you haven't worked it out, but even if you have figured it out, it still works, because there's been enough seeded there that it doesn't make it obvious, but it's not like it comes out of like nowhere. Because the whole time we don't see a single Castarian, and no one's questioning that. We just see people sort of walking around in the battlefield with guns drawn and everything, I do think the love story between Mundy Flynn and her
I forget his name. Yeah, I forget his name because he
Casto or something like that.
Yeah, you get a little bit of character development for him, and then he clops it.
Yeah, and this is after Ruby's had a sort of fake out death, which I think was played out really well. But things like that have zero stakes for me when it's like, oh my god, is Ruby dead? No, we know she's not dead.
Yeah,
we're in episode 3 of 8.
It's something that if you did it. Say if they did it at the end of Series 1, and we didn't know she was coming back for Series 2, then...
He gets very upset when Ruby's nearly killed.
I'm gonna hit you. If they didn't release the knowledge that Ruby is staying for Season 2, and then they killed her in the last episode, fake death her in the last episode, there's a lot more stake on that, because it's like, no one said anything. We know about the new companion. We don't know if Ruby's going to be there next year. Is this what happens?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's to do with the sort of placement, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know. It's happened a few times. It's not just Doctor Who that does it. Shows across, the board do it with, oh my god, is this? And you're like, well, we know they're not. It's well acted and it's well shot and everything. You know, and I love that the Doctor's reaction is he can sort of just let out a bit of a, because he can't do anything more than that. Because, because all he can do is keep as still as possible, because otherwise the mind's going to activate.
Yeah,
And
everyone's
he's
gone.
sort of forcing him to quell that emotion, even though 15's, like one of 15's most identifiable traits so far is being able to show his emotions. I mean, he's cried in every episode, which is something that, while obviously well earned in this place, because I think I'd be a blubbering mess if I was on a landmine as well.
Yeah.
I think, and a lot of people, this isn't just me saying this, a few other podcasts and things have said this, so I'm not going to take full credit for it, but is it less of an impact if we see the Doctor crying all the time than him just being, at one with his emotions and everything, and then when he does cry, it's more of a dramatic impact?
Well, again, look at 10. He didn't really cry much.
Yeah.
He had a couple of teary-eyed moments, I'd say, not crying in his second series, series 2. But then Doomsday happened. He realises Rose is gone now. She's properly gone. And you just see him crying as he's walking away from the wall. I think that works really well, but that's only because you don't see the Doctor show the emotion.
Yeah, I think there's
often
you've got to balance it. I think definitely, have it a bit more now, post by generation and post sort of like letting go of this trauma and emotional baggage and everything, and being able to sort of really be comfortable in your own emotions. I'm not saying he shouldn't be crying at all, and because that could be misconstrued in so many ways. But what I mean is I think it's good to have an identifiable strong male character on TV who's being able to be at home with his emotions, but I don't want to. I think if you do it too much, number one, it lessens the impact of when the bigger moments happen, and two, it almost becomes a bit of a sort of parody in a way.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to be very careful of towing that line to not go too far either side of that. Yeah. When people either get bored of it or people are just like, oh, he's crying again, what a wimp. Because I think they could end up doing more harm than good in a way.
Yeah.
For me personally, I mean, I could be completely wrong. It's just
I'm trying to think why he cried in Space Babies. Because he didn't he?
I mean, I think I was thinking more of the flashback to Ruby Road and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, does he get a bit... I mean, he gets very emotional when the bogeyman's about to be ejected into space and everything. I don't know if it was a full-on...
Yeah, no, he did get a bit... Yeah. I don't know.
But what I mean is, it's quite... You can count a few times now it's happened and we're only 4 episodes in.
Yeah.
And you just want to be careful of, sort of, like I said, towing that line so it doesn't go too far either way, is what I'm saying. What did you think of the sort of pace of this overall?
I think it was sort of well paced up until the finish sort of thing, with the when the Doctor's just about to get off the landmine. He sent John Francis Vader back into the Villain Guard ambulance to find out what's gone wrong, and I felt like that just was a very quick bit to the end then, and it was just. But then I guess it ties in with the end where he's like, look, if you don't rush everything, you're not gonna get nothing done. Thing at the end.
Yeah, so I think. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I think this could have been maybe better off as an hour. Maybe just that little bit extra, just to draw it out a bit more. But then
exactly what I put on there.
It does risk then that whole theme of the Doctor being stood on the landmine. One, he'd be knackered, wouldn't he? From standing on that thing all day. He'd probably never want to see the bloody thing again. But equally, it runs that risk of running dry and dull. Yeah,
I think it's when you've got a concept as good as, because this is an episode based around a concept, and Moffat does this a lot in terms of like you do an episode of like where it basically asks a question where you go, why does it look like some statues move sometimes? Why is there sometimes more shadows, and why is that scary? And
what happens if the Doctor's not there?
Yeah, what happens if the Doctor steps on a landmine and that becomes your plot for the entire episode? It's that sort of like conceptual thing which I really like about Moffat stuff, and I agree that it should have been an hour. Because I feel like once you get on the landmine, that's where you've really got to... Doctor Who can do closed, intense spaces and things, but it needs a time to breathe.
Yeah.
And I feel like when this was great. The first bit where it's just the Doctor and Ruby is so tense, but the more people that come into it, you sort of lose that tension a bit because it's not as focused on the Doctor and Ruby in that crater. I mean, I know everyone's still in and around that crater, but you know what I mean? You've got Mundy turning up and Splice and then the other fella... And it's all gets a bit like contrived. You've got the hologram of Vader, And I don't know, I felt like the ending was, I don't want to say contrived and a bit sort of, but it was a sort of matter of circumstance where he's like, well, I'm attached to this ambulance, and luckily there's a hologram AI in here, and that can go through me into that, and the day is saved. Number one, how does the Doctor pass on a hologram by holding on to the thing?
Yeah.
I thought that was a bit, I haven't seen a lot of people pick up on that, but for me, I was a bit like, wait, what happened? Since when's he been able to do that?
Yeah.
And especially when you see the little thing go across his eyes, I thought, really, that was where I was starting to get a bit, oh, I don't know. But then equally, I think, because I was expecting it to be just the two of them in this crater the whole time, or like the Doctor in the crater and Ruby going off to find help and things, I think if you branch out, then you lose some of that suspension, the tension and the claustrophobia and everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's difficult to sort of find a balance between that in a way.
I just think maybe another 5-10 minutes of just the Doctor and Ruby trying to figure out how the hell they're going to get out of this.
Yeah.
Would have done this episode a lot of benefit. Not to say it was a bad episode, like it was brilliant. I did love it.
Yeah, I just think it's the resolution to it.
Yeah, it's a bit cheap.
Yeah, it's a bit very matter of circumstance rather than sort of
genuine
action.
Yeah.
Well, not actually being the Doctor's and Ruby's actions and everything. Yeah. It's more sort of just like, dad, download yourself into that thing that I'm connected to because it stuck a thing in me and what?
Yeah. I did love the AI fleshlight ghost, I'm calling it now.
Not ever has that phrase ever been used in the history of the English language.
It never will again. But yeah, I the way he was able to interact with Splice as well, show her the pictures that they've spent of times they've spent together.
Yeah, and that was
stuff.
Sweet.
I thought that was really nice.
And that was another one of the things why I thought Splice would have been better as sort of younger, because I think you can have like a sort of 5-year-old sort of see this hologram, especially if it was a bit more realistic without sort of blue tints as you get in holograms and everything. You could have had that a bit more sort of like, oh my god, yeah, I remember this. Whereas I think someone of Splice's age in the show would have been able to sort of differentiate the difference. Personally, I don't know. Maybe she's just stupid. Who knows?
Yeah. Wow, she's a kid.
But I do love the bit where the Doctor finally gets off the landmine and gets to have his almost sort of. It's not on Everybody Lives moments because people have died. The Doctor's literally kissing the fleshlight.
Yeah.
But he gets to have that sort of like, oh my gosh, look, we've shut down the whole AI system and everything thanks to this kid's dad. That was good fun. That was sweet.
Yeah, that was nice. And you had that heartwarming moment where the Doctor's speaking to Splice at the end just before they bugger off. And she's like, I'm really sorry about your dad. And she's like, he's not gone. He's dead, but he's not gone.
Yeah, that was nice.
That was lovely. So there was some really heartwarming moments in this. Yeah,
there's some great dialogue in this throughout, and not often the most realistic dialogue, because that was something I did feel with Moffat sometimes, especially during his era as showrunner, that he's writing this great dialogue, but you think, nobody really talks like that.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much of that in this, to be fair. A couple of bits and pieces, but that was really sort of minor nitpicks, and I don't like to, as I said before, I'm not here to just tear things apart for the sake of it. I'm here to enjoy it. And I did love that bit that made me laugh, where we finally get that shot from the trailer we had back in September for the 60th, of the Doctor looking at the sun, and you think it's going to be this big moment. He goes, right, anyway, let's go.
Yep. Yeah, that did make me chuckle. And Ruby's like, oh, we've been here like 2 minutes to watch this. She went, yeah, there's still a whole universe to see, so.
And your lifespan sucks. Yeah.
Okay.
That was really good. But no, there was a really nice little finish to that.
Yeah, and I do love that the Doctor got through all of this without his screwdriver. Like, the whole thing was done without the screwdriver.
I know, because can you imagine, like, if this had been a Chris Chibnall episode, he just stepped on that landmine and gone,
yeah,
right,
that's done.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go home. Or we spend an hour waiting for a screwdriver to download an app to do mines.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this era continuing, this sort of like having the sonic screwdriver as a tool rather than a magic wand. Open as many doors as you want, that's fine.
Yeah. Use it as a torch, don't care.
Yeah, have it do a cool thing every so often, like taking all the sound out of an area and stuff like that. But let's not use it for everything. Some of the stuff the Doctor should have been able to work out, like, when he works out, Ruby throws the thing up and catches it, and straight away he's like, that was like 6.7 blah, 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 kilograms.
Yeah, he's like, I'm trying not to show off, but okay, since you insist.
Yeah, see, that's the sort of thing I like, where the Doctor's using what's up here rather than what's in his pocket.
Yeah.
sonic screwdriver, by the way, not a fleshlight. We've said fleshlight so many times on this. I never thought this would happen.
This is a fleshlight heavy episode.
That's the description. That's the description right there. That's what it will say when you open this video now on Twitter and everything. It'll just say this was a fleshlight heavy episode.
So yeah, moving on to the final bit, the TARDIS is dematerialised, and the bit where Ruby's like going.
She's going what?
What's
dead.
That?
Oh right. Okay.
Well, deaded. You see the snow.
Yes.
And obviously we've seen it in The Devil's Cord. Obviously we got it at Christmas. And we got it in Space Babies as well. So that's obviously going to tie in to whatever it is at the end. But I did love seeing that snowflake come up at the end.
It was just a sort of cool way of seeding this thing. I hope this snow doesn't happen every episode, because by the end of it it'll be like, oh god, it's snowing again.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things you sort of do sporadically. And we've only got 8 episodes as well, so I don't think we need to see it every episode.
Christ, we're nearly halfway through.
No, I know next week we will be, won't we? Jesus.
Yeah, jeez. That's gone quick.
It has. It always does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you have a highlight? I'm gonna start asking this from now on. Do you have a highlight for this episode?
It's probably the Doctor, talking to try and encourage Ruby to fight for her life, and then running the monologue for what the hell's going on, and then you got that whole thing just surrender, just stop fighting, and you've won, because you're fighting the system here. You're fighting the guys up in the offices. It was just nice and very bloody relevant. I thought it's very much a relevant episode to what's going on in the world today,
and a good one. It's good in the sense that it's relevant, and it's not
preachy.
It's not dead preachy, but it's there enough in a sense that it makes sense within the story, but also as a talking point. And it's not a story based around a talking point. It's a story that has some very relevant talking points in, and that's how you do political sort of influences in not just Doctor Who, in media in general. Any sort of fiction, you layer it within a good story, because you could have, the best message in the world, which a lot of Doctor Who has done, and even through the Chibnall years where we criticise it, the messaging is spot on, apart from where Space Amazon, it's not the system, it's the all that nonsense. But the stuff about global warming and all that, that's great. But you've got to do that subtly. And if it's the Doctor going, this is bad, don't do it again, it doesn't really work.
No, and if it's overly preachy, like Orphan 55 was, it doesn't land. If anything, it's just going to irritate the viewer. So Chibnall, please take notes from Mr. Moffat.
Not that we're bashing Chibnall again.
Well,
you are.
Yes.
I'm just saying in general, I think, because there's a lot of other shows that I've been watching recently can do the sort of political stuff quite well within an enjoyable story, because you've got to have, you look at some of the Aliens of London, I use this comparison a lot, that is political throughout the whole thing, down to the way people act, the media, the government, all of that, that's so obvious from the politics of the time and everything, but it's still got a really interesting and engaging story built around it. And that's, I think, the balancing act with it, and that's what I think Boom does really well. My highlight for this is the scene from the moment where Ruby finds a Doctor to the moment he puts his foot down on the ground is some of the best bits of Doctor Who in a while for me. That bit, it's them two on point with each other. I love the bit where he's sort of like, it's been smelted. It's a great word. And she's like, well, not in the minute. That it's still got that tiny bits of comedy in there, but the tension is still palpable.
Yeah, and she's holding it, and he's like, yeah, chuck it here. And she goes, what is it? And she, don't worry about it. Just chuck it here.
Yeah, forget it. It's fine.
It's nothing. Just pass it here. And then he's kind of forced into telling her, because she's like, well, I can literally let you put your foot down, but you need to tell me first.
Yeah, and it's the, again, it ties into that stuff with Splice later on when she's looking for her dad and the Doctor's literally holding his remains to stop him being blown up. But all in all, I enjoyed this one a lot.
Yes, so did I. I think it was best of the 3 so far for this series.
Yeah, this series keeps going up and up for me.
Yeah.
I think, if we can continue that trajectory to the end of this, it's we're in for some quality stuff.
Yeah, I've watched and you have as well, each episode 3 times so far.
I think I've only seen Space Babies twice.
Yeah, I've seen that 3 times because I watched it with Caitlin. So yeah, I've seen Space Babies and Devil's Cord three times. Space Babies does drop after the first viewing a bit. Devil's Cord, by the third one, I was like, oh, okay. It was still good, but definitely there. Boom's the only one I've been like, this is amazing all the way through so far. Like every time.
This is one I think that holds up best on rewatch so far for me. Next week though, we're going very Welsh.
Yes.
And I'm very excited.
73 yards.
Yep, we're going Welsh folklore horror, filmed literally near where I grew up, which was quite cool to see in the trailer. As somewhere I was like, oh, I've been there. And not just in a case of, I walked past that shop in Cardiff loads. It was like, no, I spent my formative childhood years by there. And now it's going to be turning into some big Doctor Who horror story. This one next week is the one I'm excited for the most out of this series. I don't know if we mentioned that before, but this has been my most anticipated one next week. So I'm very excited to watch it. I'm very excited to talk to you about it, and I'm very excited to talk to you about it.
Yes, and if you want to be here for that, then please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell button.
Sorry, it's a bit small.
And hit that bell button to stay notified for every new video we put up.
I do have a surprise planned after our series wrap up, though. I haven't told you yet because I know you love it when I do this. So keep tuning in. We're going to do the rest of the series. I'll wrap up a very fun, very stupid video, and hope to see you soon.
Yes, see you soon. Enjoy Doctor Who Day this weekend.
Bye.
Bye.